Hi there, this is the AQA A Level Business Unit 1 What is Business revision session. I'll be going over the content of Unit 1 and how to approach it for revision purposes. Hopefully this will help you feel a little bit more confident in understanding it and what to do and how to achieve your best from this unit. Okay, so let's just take a moment to have a look at the AQA topic list for Unit 1. Here it is, and it's important to make a note of this and understand as a student that Unit 1 is split into 3 sections. One of them is understand the nature and purpose of business. That's like the introductory section to the whole course, if you like, really. Understanding why business exists and mission and objectives and things like that. And then section 2 of Unit 1 is understanding the different business forms. And then section 3 is understanding that businesses operate within the external environment. Now, I'm not here to really teach you about these particular different topics. What my purposes of this unit is to really just to describe and understand what you should be taking away from the unit and perhaps what the exam board are going to be testing you on. That's what the purpose of these videos are. So the thing I would be making a note of is the learning outcomes on each section. What is it that the exam board really want you to understand? And so let's just take the first one for a second there. 3.1.1, understanding the nature and purpose of business. So the learning outcomes for 3.1.1 are that you understand why business exists, you understand the relationship between mission and objectives, to examine common business objectives, to understand why businesses set objectives, and to understand the measurement and importance of profit. And you can repeat that and have a look at the section 2 there, the learning outcomes for that, and for section 3. Those are the bits that I would be taking away and saying that's what you really do need to be understanding. That's what the exam board are saying that you're potentially going to be tested on. And of course, there's loads of resources out there for you to be able to revise from. So I'm not here to teach you about the actual topics itself. I'm here to actually just explain to you, the approach and understanding what the unit is actually about and the content of that. All right, you know all the resources that you have. You've got your textbooks, you've got your teachers, you've got Tutor to You, Jim's videos, they're fantastic, as we all know. You also have past papers, practice questions in textbooks, things like that. All of those sort of things, those are things that you should be using. This video is really just talking about the topics and understanding how to approach each unit. So let's just talk about something called revision techniques. You want to feel as confident as possible with the 10 units that you've got to learn about. So it's really important to try and have a sort of a single approach to all 10 units. And one of the ways that I would recommend that you go about revising would be in the following way. So just a quick reminder of the previous screen of how Unit 1 is divided up into 3 different areas. These are the things that I would be saying to myself. What's the unit about? What do the exam board really want me to know about from this particular unit? What do I understand about this unit myself? What are the main topics? Those main topics are listed there, but there are a couple others that you could sort of think about, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. How am I going to overcome topics that I don't understand? So that's really important. You need to have an approach. You're going to see a topic there, just pick any old topic there, say sole traders, for example. I can see there. If you didn't know what that meant, how are you going to overcome that? What are you going to do to try and boost your knowledge in that particular area and your confidence, given that you could be faced with a question about that. The next thing I would do, once you've got a revision list for Unit 1, I would be saying things like, what is this topic? What's it about? Why does it relate to business? Is really important. So for example, again, take that topic, sole traders. What is that topic? Why does it relate to businesses? What's the advantages, say, of being a sole trader? The disadvantages of being a sole trader? How does that topic potentially link to another business topic or another business unit? That's also really important, just to sort of broaden your knowledge and help you realize that all the units are kind of interlinked in one way or another. And also probably a good one to ask yourself is there a formula associated with this topic? And of course, there's not a formula associated with every topic in business, but it is important to have an awareness of the topics that do have a formula associated with them. So other things obviously that you can do for revision is read textbooks, make notes, tutor to you, and YouTube videos, wonderful. So obviously, like I said, Jim does his tutor to you videos. They're fantastic. If there's a topic he hasn't covered, it probably more than likely is covered by somebody else on YouTube. So do take time to have a look and search for those topics if you're struggling. Practice papers, past papers, speak to your teachers is also essential part of revision technique. Speaking to your teacher if there's topics and bits and areas that you still don't understand, get them to go back over that again. And then of course there's your own note taking, extra questions in the textbook. Keeping up to date with BBC Business News is also vital, because there could be something in the BBC Business News that you'd like to bring into an exam answer, which is a really good tip as well. So what should you really be understanding about Unit 1? Well, the first thing to understand is, of course, it's the first unit in the course. So it is going to be that introductory unit, trying to get you to understand some of the basic concepts of business. Let's have a quick recap of those and what those topics are. So the first one is, of course, why do businesses actually exist? There are various reasons as to why businesses actually exist, and what's the relationship and differences between a mission statement and objectives? Why do businesses set those? What's the importance behind that? Common business objectives, why are they set? They're all in the textbook. Your teacher may have gone over them already, but common business objectives and why they're set is important. And of course, the measurement and the importance of profit. Now, you should, of course, by now know what profit is and the difference between, say, profit and revenue. What is profit? Why is it so important to a business, and what do they do with their profits? Then, of course, the different business forms that are out there. You could be a sole trader, partnership, PLC, whatever they might be. You need to understand them, and you need to understand them quite well. There's a lot of sort of advantages and disadvantages of the different business forms, and there's also reasons for choosing and changing those different business forms. I would say this is a big topic, really needs to be investigated and researched and revised well. Shareholders and why they invest. So you may have shareholders that invest in your business. Why do they do that? And what influences the share price and share price changes? So something else that you probably would need to read up on as a business student for Unit 1. Also, the different effects on ownership is another topic that's important as well. Then finally, within Unit 1, you need to know and understand that businesses operate within an external environment. Always a little bit confusing, that statement, but all it means is that imagine a business operating on a day-to-day basis. So let's just take a local bakery, for example. Okay, they operate on day-to-day basis, but what actually happens outside, what goes on outside in the real world, if you like, that could actually impact on their business. We normally use something called a pestle analysis to work that one out, and you soon realise that there are things that go on politically that might impact on a local or national business, or something in the economy that goes wrong, or something socially, or from some kind of technology changes that happen, or something legal changes that the government might make, or something in the environment. That's what that stands for, pestle, just in case you had forgotten. But yeah, it's important to know and understand that businesses use that business tool to assess the things that are going on in the real world and how it could actually impact on the business. And then finally, for Unit 1 is the external environment can have different effects on costs and demand. So that is Unit 1 in a nutshell. In a moment, I'm just going to go through it in a bit more depth and look at the actual topics that you need to be revising and identify whether they are small, medium or large topics within Unit 1. But hopefully you're starting to get a little bit of a picture and flavour of actually what Unit 1's about, which is what this whole presentation is about, just to try and help you digest the contents of Unit 1, to give you an overview and to be able to go away and sort of confidently talk about Unit 1 as well. So let's just take a look at Unit 1 in a little bit more depth. So we've got full coverage of the topics that we need to know for it. So I've created these revision lists with the topics on the left hand side, and then the next column I've said whether I believe it to be a small, medium or large topic, or whether it's got a formula in there, or if it's a particular business model. The reason why I've done that is just to sort of help you identify sort of how much time you should really spend on it. So for example, as you can see on there, it says what do businesses do? Well, that's a small topic, and you should only spend probably a small amount of time on it unless you need to spend longer. The next column just talks about putting a mark on there out of 10 for the knowledge. What is your understanding of, say, for example, why do businesses exist? If it's 10, then obviously you can move on to the next topic. If it's 1, it's not a problem, is it, at the moment? You just put it as a 1. Then it helps you to identify that you need to do some work in that area. And then there's a little notes area for you to add some notes. And then later on down the line, you would then review where you're at and to see if you're going to get a higher score. So obviously if, say for example, why business exists was 1 out of 10 for knowledge, well you would hope sort of 6 or 7 weeks later of revision that that number has significantly improved and that you now have a sort of fuller understanding of that particular topic. Let's have a quick look at them then, go through some of them. Why do business exist? What do businesses do? You need to have an understanding of mission statements, the types of business objectives, relationships and differences between objectives and mission statements, why businesses set objectives. You need to have an understanding of the input and output transformational process, profit and the importance of profit to a business, fixed and variable costs. Important to note that that's a small topic, but it does have a formula with it, so that's important to note. Business revenues is another one as well that you need to understand. The list goes on, moves over into 3.1.2. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, Unit 1 is split into 3 areas. So let's have a look at the topics for that. That one touches on types of businesses, for example, sole trader, PLC, partnerships. You need to understand each of those and why businesses choose those particular business forms. Not-for-profit businesses, have a look at that. Reasons for choosing and changing business forms. I would say that's a large topic that's associated with the types of business. So they kind of go together, those ones. So just have that at the back of your mind. Shares and share prices, the significance of share price changes, medium topic. Influence on share prices, why do shareholders invest? Again, medium topic that's associated with that. The effects of ownership on missions, objectives, decisions and performance. That's also a topic that you would need to know about. And then we move on to 3.1.3, understanding that businesses operate within that external environment. Understand how the external environment can affect the costs and demand. Pestle business model, and also fair trade. So those are the kind of key topics that you would need to know in Unit 1, and taking into account everything that I've put into this presentation, you should now have a slightly better understanding of the requirements of Unit 1 and what you need to now go away and revise. Okay, good luck. Thank you. So I think it's really important to nearly finish off this presentation by having a look at some potential example questions. These aren't taken from any exam papers. These aren't sort of 9 markers, 25 markers, 16 markers, what have you. These are just sort of example questions, and they potentially could be 9 or 16, 25 markers if you have a look at the sort of depth of the question. But it's just important to sort of get a flavour really of what questions for Unit 1 look like. So let's have a look at the first one. Compare and contrast the characteristics of a partnership and limited company as forms of business ownership. Using relevant examples, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of each. That's quite a good question, probably quite a common one for Unit 1. So we'll look at another one. Using relevant examples, discuss how a business can be affected by changes in the economic environment. Evaluate the potential impact of changes in factors such as inflation, interest rates, exchange rates on the business, and recommend strategies that the business could adopt to mitigate such impacts. Quite a long-winded question there, but if you break it down, quite a good one to try and attempt to have a look at and answer. Third question, to what extent do you agree that shareholders only invest in a business to make a profit? Using relevant examples, discuss the factors that influence shareholders to invest in a particular company, including financial performance, dividend payments, corporate governance, and social responsibility. Evaluate the potential implications of these factors for the long-term success and sustainability of the business. Now, if you note from this particular question, this crosses over into a couple of other units as well. So I thought I'd put that one in there just to sort of demonstrate to you how a question can relate and cross over into other units. For example, there, Unit 5, financial performance and things like that. So that's another one you could potentially have a go at. And question 4. These are quite long questions, by the way. Probably in the exam, they probably would potentially be slightly shorter than this, but we'll keep going. How does how company's mission statement influence the setting of its objectives? Discuss the relationship between a company's mission and its objectives, and explain how objectives can be used to achieve the company's mission. Using relevant examples, evaluate the potential challenges that companies may face in aligning their objectives with their mission statement and recommend strategies to overcome such challenges. Again, another big question there that potentially you could look at, break down, attempt, gives you a flavour again for what potentially could come up. Finally, explain the concept of profit and its importance to a business, and discuss the different measures of profit, including gross profit, net profit, profit margins, and their relevance to the different stakeholders. Using relevant examples, evaluate the limitations of profit as a performance indicator and recommend other metrics that businesses could use to evaluate their financial performance. Again, crossover there of units into Unit 5. So again, these aren't questions that I potentially would be saying, I'll sit down and have a go at, but it's kind of giving you a flavour of the types of questions that potentially could come up in relation to Unit 1. What I would personally recommend, as well as doing, is having a look at past papers. And Tutor to You has done a sort of link as to where Unit 1 questions do pop up, or have popped up, I should say, on past papers. So that was a good thing to have a go at as well. But hopefully that's helped you, give you a flavour of the types of Unit 1 questions that are out there.